A bit closer soon. There he is, everyone. Look at that. Fantastic. Oh, this is wonderful. See how hot that leopard is, panting away. It's very, very warm, and he's lying in the shade on that little termite mound. Maybe he's got a bit of a cool breeze coming up from there. We're very fortunate that we've got the camera and we can zoom in, so we don't have to park too close for you to appreciate this beautiful leopard. So we'll give some of the other vehicles around with the guests on them the opportunity to get a bit closer so they can see him. Yes, I'm so excited. So, I mean, after walking around, having a look for tracks and trying to find out where this leopard had moved to, and we were right, he probably just came down, had a drink earlier, and is lying in the shade here. Oh, this is fantastic. Oh, there's a bit of a whirlwind blowing to our right. A small little whirlwind. Wow, look at that, everyone. Oh, you can hear that wind. That's very cool. It's probably because of all this hot air. Not quite a tornado, but anyway, isn't this fantastic? I'm so happy we got to find this male leopard, and I was getting a bit worried at one stage. I thought maybe he's moved off and disappeared completely. We're not too far from the southern part of our boundary, so I mean, the chances are that he could maybe have wandered down there after a drink, but luckily we were right. He came down, probably drank earlier today, and has decided just to rest in the shade. It is very, very warm, and the chances of him moving around too much are quite unlikely. So this really is fantastic. Just having a sip of water, everyone. Sorry, it is quite hot and mouth is getting a bit dry. Now, this leopard, from my understanding, is one of the dominant males around here, and I'm not too sure of any other big males that do wander onto the property. I don't know. Anyway, but if any of you know which other males do move around this area, I know there's a very large male leopard which does go on to Arethusa, and that is known as the Anderson male, and he goes on to Arethusa and Nkoro, which is south of our boundary. And that is, I have seen that male leopard before. He's got a very big territory, and he is one of the largest leopards I've ever seen. Now, this male is also, I mean, Mvula, yes, Mvula is around here. James, I don't think this leopard is underweight. I think it's just the angle that he's lying at. You know, they're fairly slender cats, but judging by the size of this male's neck and his head, he does look like a big male leopard. It's beautiful. And now I remember, everyone, when I was here in June, was it June? No. When was it? My interview drive, the very first drive I did for Safari Live, I went and sat at a warthog burrow. And that was the first morning I'd gone out. Sat at the warthog burrow, and I mean, no, sorry, it was a hyena den. It was a hyena den, actually, and got to sit at this hyena den. Saw a hyena lying out in the open, and while we were sitting, Mvula stuck his head up right behind the hyena. Just, I think we had almost just gone live. We were sitting there for about 5 minutes, and that was incredible. That was the first leopard I saw on Juma and on Safari Live. known, and you say there's another male leopard around here known as Gijima, and his territory is predominantly further north. Now, the interesting thing with these male leopards is their territories may overlap slightly. They are very territorial, everyone, so they do mark their territory and defend their territory against other leopards. However, they may overlap slightly, and the reason for that is possibly for water. You know, when it is so hot, and especially during this dry season, the larger dams and water areas would be used by a few different male leopards, but they do defend these areas against one another, their territories against one another. And the interesting thing with leopards is that females, and within a male's territory, a big male territory could be, it could be anywhere between 10 and 15 or even 20 square kilometers, which is a very large area. And within that territory, there'll be a number of female leopards that this male would possibly mate with. So success for these animals, and especially these male leopards, success is to have a large territory so that you can keep other males out and females in and mate with those females. You know, in nature, if you have offspring and you have a large territory, you are considered to be successful. And from, I think it's Caffeinator, and you would like to know, I assume you enjoy coffee, and you would like to know how do we ensure the safety of the people while they're on safari. So the whole thing is we need to be very respectful of the animals. So we are very aware of their behavior, and we can see this male leopard, for example, he is out in the open, and the other vehicles are much closer than we are at the moment, so that the guests can all have a good view of this leopard. But if he was showing signs of aggression, those vehicles would move off almost immediately. They won't hang around, because at the end of the day, they need to be very careful with the people on the vehicles. But these animals do view the vehicles as something which passes by, no direct threat. And I think that's the important thing that we need to realize, is that as long as they don't feel threatened, they won't necessarily attack the vehicles. And also, these animals are still a bit nervous of the vehicles. So if we had to drive right up towards them, they would move off. So with all of that said, we try our best to ensure the safety of our guests. And the guides are all very well qualified, and they do understand and know animal behavior as much as we can. So we are very, very careful when we're viewing these animals, and respectful. I think that's the most important thing. Keep our distance, have respect, and don't force the animal into a situation which may cause them to feel threatened, because then they will act in one of two ways: either aggressively and attack, or they would just run away. And most of the time they run away. We got a question from somebody called Driving Over Leopards. Hope you haven't done that. I doubt it, but it's an interesting Twitter name. And you wanted to know, why is it that the Sabi Sand area is so well known for leopard viewing? And I think one of the reasons is the Sabi Sand Game Reserve has made up of a number of different lodges. There are quite a few. I think they're around 36 or maybe closer to 42 different lodges throughout this entire area. Some private and some privately owned lodges. And what happens is these vehicles and the rangers and trackers do go out and track and find these animals on a fairly regular basis. So the one thing is that the animals become as we can see, used to the vehicles and very relaxed around vehicles, whereas generally leopards are known to be very, very skittish and very shy animals. But I think one of the reasons why there's such a high density in the area is because there's a lot of good food for them. So in other words, there's a lot of antelope species which the leopards prefer feeding on. Everything from the size of a steenbok, a young steenbok, or steenbok adult for that matter, all the way up to a large kudu. Leopards will feed on all those antelope species. There's a lot of food around here. So you've got food, you've got water, and also the terrain. Leopards like dense, thick areas, drainage lines where they can hide, where they can stalk. The bush is generally a lot thicker, so it makes it ideal for these ambush predators. So I think a combination of all of that is why this area is well known for leopard viewing, and is probably the best leopard viewing in Africa, I dare say, because I mean, I have worked in this area for 8 years, and I've seen so many amazing leopard sightings here, and to be honest, better than anywhere else that I've been to. So, but again, it's never a guarantee, and we are fortunate that being out here every day and tracking and following these animals, we do get to find them and show all of you, viewers and guests that come out from all over the world. So it is lovely to be able to show them to you. Sorry, I'm going to need another sip of water. Sure, it's very warm. That leopard's got the right idea about lying in the shade over there. But you can see still, and that panting is purely because he is hot. He's trying to cool down a little bit. John Marvey, you want to know how many leopards are there in the area? Now, I would say frequently seen on Djuma, we have got, okay, so it is Mvula, that male leopard, then there's Tingana, this male leopard, Karula and her 2 cubs, we'll count all of them, Shadow, there's another female leopard, and then as far as I know, there's at least 2 or 3 others, I think. And I can't remember all their names, everyone. I do apologize, but I don't know them very well. I haven't seen them. And so there's probably between, or roughly around 9 or 10, I think, just within this immediate area on Djuma that we do see on a regular basis. And it's not to say we see them every day, but maybe at least once a week we get to see 1 or 2 different leopards, if not more so. So I think that's about it. Then there are also leopards on Arethusa and leopards on Cheetah Plains that we see. So there are quite a number of leopard around, because then you start going into different territories. So then you'll get more leopard. I'm very, very happy that we got to see this leopard. It does look like a beautiful male. Now, I'm not too sure now. I actually don't know how old this leopard is. To be honest, he looks like he's about 4 or 5 years old, but I'm not sure. So if any of our viewers, if you could let me know, I know a lot of you have been seeing these animals a lot longer than I have, and you do know where they come from. How old is Tingana at the moment? Okay, we're going to sit around here a little bit more with this leopard. I'm going to see if I can get another position, maybe get us out of the sun. The leopard's definitely got the right idea about being in the shade. While we move around and see if we can get another view, let's head over to James. He's got some beefalo he'd like to show you, as he calls them. Leopards 10 years old, and having a better look at him now, he's sat up for us. I can see the size of his head and that dewlap. Look at that under the throat there, everybody, that very thick dewlap. So that's a good sign that this is an older, more dominant leopard. And I had only seen him from the bank quite a way away. So, yeah, so his 10th birthday is coming up apparently, so he's about 9 years old. So this leopard is in his prime at the moment, which is wonderful. He is a beautiful big male leopard. This is really so special, everyone. And he just moved around for us briefly, just changed positions. He was lying on his left side, he's now lying on his right side, facing away from us. Just trying to cool down, scanning the area. There's actually nothing around here at the moment. And as it starts cooling down, this leopard will definitely move around a bit more. And I think he'll most likely try and hunt this evening, perhaps. I'm not sure when last he ate. These leopards are, very opportunistic too. So it doesn't matter if he's necessarily very hungry or not. If he does come across any potential prey, he will try and hunt. But I think for now he's just trying to stay cool and he's resting. Nina's, wow, I think I can see it there. Actually, you said, do I know about Tingana's smiley face on his left shoulder? And it looks like it's that over there. Nina's, is that correct? Is that the smiley face you're talking about? It looks like it. 2 eyes and a smiley face. Have a nice day, Tingana. That's very interesting. Wow, that is incredible. And everybody, those who, often people ask me what is the difference between a leopard and a cheetah, and you can see the leopards actually have rosettes. Those patterns on the coat are known as rosettes. They're not clear spots, whereas the cheetah have got clear spots. And obviously there are a number of other differences, but the main one is that these leopards have these beautiful patterns, these rosettes all over the body. And there are sections of the body that there are little spots, but predominantly rosettes. Yeah, and you want to know if we do have cheetah. We do see cheetah occasionally. We haven't seen for about a week or 2 weeks, I think. I think it was Jamie who saw the last cheetah here. I think just before she went on leave, she saw them on cheetah plains. 2 males that come or pass through the area occasionally. Oh, sorry, it was Taylor about 2 weeks ago. I remember Taylor and Jamie were on drive and Taylor saw the cheetah. That's right. And so we do get them occasionally, but there are not many in this area. And the reason for that is cheetah prefer open areas, open plains. That's generally the habitat they do enjoy. They'll move through these areas without a doubt. Oh, there's a nice big yawn. Look at that. Wow. They do move around, and but generally prefer the open areas, and because of that, there's certain areas that have beautiful plains, and that's generally where you get a lot of cheetah. And it's the northern part of Mala Mala has got some nice plains, and that leads on to cheetah plains with those big open areas, and that's usually where we see the cheetah, is on cheetah plains. Robin, you've asked an interesting question about following and tracking these animals, and you want to know, have we ever... Let's see where this leopard goes. Oh. I'm just going to see, he's walking behind us, everyone. I'm not sure. Just trying to see where he goes and see if we can reposition. It's going to be a bit tricky here because of the dam. Okay, everyone, I'm just going to try reposition. Hold on a second. He's just moved down behind us, but not far. Let me just try and see if I can. We were parked on quite a steep slope there. Alright, I'll tell you what, while I try and reposition, let's quickly head back to James, get an update from him, see what he's up to, and then we'll get you back shortly. One perfect light. He just moved down and he started to drink. This is incredible. Really wonderful. He looks very thirsty. And look, you can actually see clearly how his tongue is curled back while he's lapping up the water. So he doesn't get a lot of water with each sip. And that's why a lot of these big cats do tend to lie down and drink for quite a while before they move off. Look at the sunlight in his eyes, his beautiful golden eyes. Oh, this is really incredible. This is a photographer's dream, everybody. This really is. Look at that. James, you want to know if these animals are tagged or chipped in any way? No, they are not. Not at all. And these are completely wild animals, so tracking and finding them is not always easy. That's why we rely on finding their tracks and following them around. But no, they are not tagged or chipped in any way at all. Wow, that really is incredible. Joan, you want to know if leopards can swim. Now, that's a good question. Joan, I've tracked leopards up to a river just not too far south from here, called the Sand River, when it's been flowing quite substantially, and tracked a leopard right down to the river. And that afternoon, so that was the morning, that afternoon we found the male leopard on the northern side, and the tracks went straight down to the river. So the only way he could have got across was by swimming. I've never seen it, but they can. I do think they can, and I say they can because I've seen a leopard actually, now that I think of it. And one of my guests, a gentleman, a very keen photographer, and we used to spend a lot of time just looking for leopards. And we once got a beautiful young male leopard that was lying in a little water hole, in a pan. He was lying in the middle in the water, which was incredibly strange. And I do think if they need to, if they have to, they will swim, but they generally try to avoid getting into the water, just like lions. Lions will also swim if they have to, but they try and avoid the water. They won't go in if they don't have to. Just getting back to that question about the tags and the leopards, or animals, we don't tag or monitor or collar any of the animals in these areas. This is a completely natural game reserve, and these animals are free roaming, and it's purely by skill and a bit of luck when we do find these animals. So there's no tagging or collaring or GPS tracking of these animals. It's the basically the, what's the word, the authentic way of finding animals, tracking, listening to the bush, looking for signs and following and finding them. That is what makes a safari like this so wonderful. It's because you never know what you're going to see, and when you do get sightings like this, it is incredible. It is very special, and I cannot stress to everyone how wonderful it is to see this big male leopard drinking at this waterhole, because it is not something you see regularly, especially in beautiful afternoon light like this. So we are very fortunate, and you can see how thirsty he is. I know exactly how he feels. I feel the same. Steph, you say that Tingana should go to Buffelshoek Dam if he doesn't mind getting his feet wet. There's a free meal there for him. Yeah. And leopards are opportunistic. If they do find carcasses, they will try and get a free meal, definitely. A lot of the time I've seen male leopards steal kills from female leopards. They move in and chase them off and take what's left of the kill. So they are very opportunistic. Isn't this just beautiful, everyone? I mean, it is still quite warm and muggy. There's not a lot of bird calls or anything around, but this leopard is very happy that he's getting a cool drink of water, and he hasn't stopped for about 5 minutes, if not longer. I'm so glad we got to find him this afternoon. This is really incredible. Let's see where he goes now. He's possibly going to move away from the dam a little bit, maybe head towards a cooler area and lie in some shade again. It'll be interesting. Let's see. He looked like he had a little bit of a limp earlier, but maybe he was just a bit stiff. And again, everyone lying down to drink. Fantastic. This is a thirsty leopard. So my thinking is that this leopard did drink earlier this morning when he moved down here, and then just plonked himself on top of this termite mound, rested in the shade during the heat of the day. And I think with all that panting and the heat, trying to regulate his body temperature, he most likely got very thirsty, and that's why he's drinking now. Take the opportunity while he can. And also, you must need to think that sorry, I just lost my train of thought, but with these leopards, or this male, why he's drinking so much at the moment, we need to remember is he'll also be moving around and marking his territory during the course of the evening. So he needs a lot of urine for that, to be able to mark the territory. And that gets back to Robin's question from earlier. You asked about, have we ever mapped the territories that these animals move through? And we have, Robin. So in these areas where we work permanently, and I know, if I can use the example of when I worked at Londolozi, so south of here, which is very well known for its leopard viewing. And on Londolozi, we had leopard identity kits that were able to identify the leopards, and on those kits we also would map basically the area that we thought these leopards would move in, their territory, and it was based on where we would see them, where we would follow them and see how they'd mark their territory. But it's not always completely accurate, because they may extend their territory somewhat at some point, or move into another territory if they are exploring. But we do generally, if those people who work in the areas permanently and get to see these leopards on a regular basis, they will be able to monitor the general movements of these animals and see where they do move throughout the territory. So it will give us an idea. And I think, for example, that Anderson male, that very dominant or big dominant male leopard, the northern part of Londolozi and all the way into Arethusa and Nkoro, he has got a huge territory because he is such a big dominant male leopard. So also what will happen is, even though his territory extends beyond the boundaries of a certain area, the lodges, the various lodges may communicate with each other and say, look, we've seen him and he's this far east or he's this far west. Then that will give us an idea of how far or how large their territory is and where it extends to. Oh, look at that dewlapper. He is a big leopard, this. He really is. And so great that we got to see him moving around, from lying down and moving around. All right, I'm going to try and stick with Tingana a little bit longer, just see where he moves. And while I do that, let's head to James, and he's got some primates that he'd like to show you. So some of our viewers might be wondering what was going on with that little insert. So we're trying something new, and so occasionally when we do link between the presenters, we'll do that little insert. Let us know what you think. It's always nice getting feedback and letting us know how the viewers feel. We're still sitting with Tingana. He's just moved down the other side of the dam wall from where he was drinking, and he's now just lying down, resting. It's in a bit of shade there, and the temperature has cooled down quite a bit. It's still very warm and very muggy, but much cooler than it was earlier today. I mean, 36 degrees earlier was quite hot. Just going to actually reposition a little bit because there is another vehicle coming. I just want to make sure there is space for them. So let me just move a little bit forward down to here, and then they should be able to position anywhere they like. And that's one of the things, as a guide, you need to always remember is positioning of a vehicle is very important, especially when you've got photographic guests on the vehicle that want to get a good photo. But for anyone, you don't want to be sitting looking at an awkward angle, and you also need to take in consideration the other vehicles that are around so that everybody can get a view when they are out here. And we've got a lovely view, and so have the other guests. So I do think that this male leopard will possibly rest here for quite some time now after that long drink of water he had. There's no need for him to move. Wait till it cools down a little bit and then probably move around during the course of the evening. And Kim, all the way from Florida, good afternoon to you, Kim. You wanted to know, what did I call that loose skin or flap under the neck of the leopard? It is called a dewlap. And now my spelling, and maybe the ladies in the FC can help me with the spelling, but I think it's D-U-L-A-P, the dewlap. Brian, do you know? I think so. I've never had to write dewlap. So, let me see. I think that's the correct spelling. And what these big males get it. You don't really see it on females or younger leopards. The older males do get it, and I think it serves as a way of protection around the neck, the looser skin, if they do get into any fights with one another, because leopards can be very territorial, and they do occasionally get into aggressive fights with one another. So that looser skin around the neck can protect the throat and obviously the head, but mainly the throat area, because if they do bite one another around there, they don't want to puncture anything vital. So that is probably the main purpose of that dewlap. And I understand that our viewers are having mixed reactions to that little insert that we put in there. It's good. Well, let's see, and we'll try to work out what works and what doesn't. But don't panic, it wasn't the end of the show. It was just a quick insert changing between presenters. It really is spectacular to be able to sit and view a big male leopard like this. And the nice thing is some of the other people have all been here and viewed this leopard and moved on, because it has been quite hot. So for some guests to sit out in the heat, it's not that comfortable. So they've seen a leopard and they've moved on to see what else they can find, which is great for us, because then we have the opportunity to spend a bit more time here and sit with the leopard now and see what he gets up to. We obviously hardened bushgoers, we don't mind the heat. Hey, Brian disagrees with me, I think.
Not when you get, not if you parked in the heat all day.
Yeah. I've learned that to keep the cameraman happy, I need to park the vehicle in the shade as much as possible. Otherwise I get shouted at. Don't forget to some of our new viewers, if you've just joined us, send questions at #SafariLive via Twitter. Otherwise, you can email us questions at wildearth.tv. And we love hearing from all of you and getting your questions and comments. Lindsay, you'd like to know, if you wanted to come on safari in Southern Africa, what the best time of year is. Well, the coolest time. You asked what the coolest time of year would be. So anywhere from about May onwards, I would say, it starts cooling down quite a bit. But May, June, July are usually our winter months, especially June and July. It gets quite chilly and quite cold. So anywhere between May and August is usually a very nice time of year if you prefer the cooler conditions. The bird life does change because a lot of birds do migrate for the winter, so you're not going to see as many birds. There are still beautiful birds around. There are not as many bugs around, so if you don't like bugs, it's also an ideal time of year. Because it is so much colder, and also not as much rain. We get very little rain in winter, and that's why it's our drier season. So a lot of people do enjoy that time of year for safari. So, and like I say, if you do enjoy the cooler temperatures, that would be the best. I always say, guests ask me all the time, the best time of year to come on a safari. I really like April and May, just because it's that almost a secret season, moving out of summer, you're going through autumn and into winter. Down here in the southern hemisphere, and the temperature does start dropping. It's much cooler. The bush is still green because we are moving out of summer, so you do still get wonderful lush trees and that around before you start moving straight into winter, where everything does start going brown and yellow. But that's also beautiful colors. But I do enjoy April, May. Those are my favorite months of the year. A lot of people also really enjoy August and September. So just coming out of the winter, it's not too cold, the temperatures are warming up. The mornings and the evenings are a lot cooler, which is nice, but not too cold. The days are beautiful, kind of mid-20s, so around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. Crystal, you wanted to know, can other leopards sense if there's another leopard around them? Crystal, these animals do rely so much on their sense of smell and their hearing, and especially their sense of smell. They can pick up the scent of another leopard very easily, I think. And look, if there was another leopard that just came into the territory and surprised this male, I mean, it could get a fright. It could be surprised. But in my experience, seeing male leopards moving around, they are aware of other leopards being in their territory, and they do pick up on the scent and the smell and probably hear them. Leopards do territorial calling, and usually when they get into an area, and especially these male leopards, if they do come across one another, there's quite a show. And usually what happens is they try and basically intimidate the other leopard, and the reason for that is these animals are solitary, so they try not to get injured, because if they do get injured, they are unable to hunt for themselves. So it is important that they avoid confrontation at all costs. So often what they'll do is they'll walk up and down in a line next to one another, and they'll growl and snarl and bare their teeth. They salivate quite a lot, and all of that is to intimidate the other leopard. And by doing that, they will hopefully push the other one away. So they size each other up a little bit, and perhaps they will then leave, not having fought with one another. However, it does happen where they do end up fighting, and these males will tackle each other and fight and scratch and bite. And that can get very violent, but then usually a winner is sorted out very quickly, or defined very quickly, and then they'll split up, and the winner will be able to keep his territory, and the other one will move off. So it does happen, but generally with leopards, they try and avoid confrontation. Now, deer, I hope I'm saying that correctly, deer would like to know, do the leopards and lions smell similar? Deer, okay, that's what Lou is saying. And you would like to know, do leopards and lions smell the same or similar? And no, I don't think they do. The reason I say that is, look, I think if you had to get down and smell cats, a cat that was very close by, if you got close enough, they probably would smell slightly similar. But I do believe they've got a very different scent. And the interesting thing, and the best way to describe it or give you an example, is with these leopards. When these male leopards move around and scent mark, and some of you might laugh at me, but I'm being completely serious. When they scent mark, the scent does smell a little bit like popcorn. And you can often pick up on the smell very clearly if you are following a leopard and they stop and they scent mark, spray urine on a bush. If you drive past, you do get a popcorn smell. That's the best way to describe it.
It's only popcorn, buttered popcorn.
Buttered popcorn. Brian says buttered popcorn. Right, yes, the best kind. So, but it definitely does smell like that, which is very interesting. Lion scent does not smell like that, and I have smelt bushes after lions have passed through. It's a little bit, I don't know how you could describe that. I would say a typical urine smell, perhaps, slightly acidic. But harder to describe the lion scent, but the leopard scent definitely. So they do smell different. They and I think that's also how they would recognize that there's probably another predator in the area, is by the scent. Excuse me, I just need another sip of water. Sure, the water gets very warm out here very quickly. It's like drinking tea now. Now there's an African cuckoo calling, everyone, and I know you all enjoy my bird calls, I'm not sure if you can hear it. It sounds similar to the African hoopoe, but it does a boop, 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 and you can hear it in the distance. My bird calls aren't great, but there's an African cuckoo that is calling in a constant call in the distance. Look at that sunset, everyone. Beautiful silhouette of those trees. So this is so nice. There's actually a slight breeze which has just picked up that we can feel at the moment, which is always welcome. Cool us down a little bit. And it's so wonderful and spectacular to still be able to sit with this male leopard. He hasn't moved off too far, and we've been lucky. We spent most of the afternoon with him. I mean, we did have to walk through this drainage line looking for him a little bit earlier, and we were fortunate that we thought, remember we said we thought he'd come down to the water, and then he was lying very close to the water on that termite mound. So it was a bit easier to find him than I anticipated. I thought he'd be down in a thick drainage line, possibly further down off to our left. It does get a lot thicker, but luckily he stayed at the water, went and had a long drink, and now is just resting. You can actually see the size of those paws. Very large paws on these male leopards, and they're incredibly powerful animals. I've seen these male leopards hoist kills like a full-grown impala ram up into a tree, which is probably about 50 or 60 kilograms. So what's that, 140 pounds, I think, or somewhere around there, which is amazing. 120, 140 pounds. Hoist right up into a tree. That Anderson male that we spoke about earlier, that big male leopard, I saw him a few months ago, and he actually hoisted a young buffalo calf into a tree, which was incredible. I mean, just to give you an idea of the size of that leopard and how powerful he is to hoist a young buffalo calf. I do believe that pound for pound, these are probably the most powerful predators that we have here. Even though lions are incredibly strong and powerful, but lions are much bigger than leopards. A big male lion can weigh up to 200, maybe 220 kilograms, roughly around 450 to 500 pounds. So much, much larger, and obviously because they are much larger, they are more powerful, but I think pound for pound, leopard must be one of the most powerful predators we have. Well, definitely in the cat family. I might sit here for a little bit longer, and while we do that, I wonder what James has been up to. Let's head over to James and see what he's doing and what he's got. And don't forget, ask James what belt he made it to in his martial arts. He loves that question. Why, astonishingly, James? So this leopard has not moved, everybody. He's still relaxing and resting just down in this little bit of a drainage line away from the dam. And fortunately for us, he's lying out in the open. So we've got a wonderful view of him now. We just changed positions. We're actually up on the dam wall at the moment looking down at him. And as you can see, we're right here. So it's what I mean. I do believe because it's so hot that's why this leopard hasn't decided to move. He's comfortable lying down there, probably just trying to wait till it cools down before he does move. And I was getting the updates that James was just mocking me slightly. He gets quite upset when I ask him what belt he is in his or that he got to in his martial arts. And then I understand he told you about the story Well, he claims I said, "There's he there," but I didn't. And we were training, and I think it was just excitement and spotting a bird and saying, "There it is over there." But I said it so quickly that he then, and James has always mocked me for being from the south of Johannesburg, which is not that bad, a beautiful area. And I went to school right next door to James. I think there's a bit of rivalry there because the two schools, two very good schools in Johannesburg, and they're right next door to one another. So he gives me a hard time from being from that school, and I give him a hard time from being from the school that he is from. But I think that's why we get along so well. Denise, you wanted to know if leopards are endangered. No, they are not. You know, Denise, to be honest, there's, you know, I've read and tried to find out exactly how many there are within the Greater Kruger. It's very difficult to tell because you know, you don't see the leopards as much as you see lions and that, but there are plenty of leopards around this area, this part of South Africa, but not just here. Throughout South Africa, there are leopards just about everywhere, and the reason for that is these cats adapt so well to different areas, different terrain. They're very elusive, they're excellent hunters, and they can hunt animals. Well, they've got a large range of food that they will hunt, so anywhere from snakes and fish that they'll fish out of rivers or water holes, all the way up to large antelope like kudu, and even young eland, which is the largest antelope in Africa. So these leopards are incredible animals, and the way they are able to adapt to their surroundings and to the areas that they live in is incredible, and that is why they do occur all over South Africa especially, but also Southern Africa. There's a lot of leopards all over there, not endangered at all. It's just we don't really know how many there are because it is so difficult to keep track of these leopards, especially when they don't want to be seen. You are not going to find them. I told you earlier, when I was tracking Tingana, I had tracked a male leopard not too long ago, in August. I was tracking a male leopard and literally walked past a thicket 2 meters from me, and he was lying in there, and we didn't know because it was so thick, and he didn't move, he didn't make a sound. He lay in there dead still, and we walked past 3 or 4 times. Eventually we managed to spot just his tail sticking out a little bit. So they are incredibly elusive. They're very intelligent cats, and that is why I think one of the reasons is that they are found throughout the country, not just in South Africa, but also throughout the continent of Africa. All these leopards. And then on other continents like South America, you've got the jaguar, which is basically a big leopard. And those jaguars get to the size of about a female lion. So you can imagine a large male jaguar weighing between 120 and 140 kilograms, somewhere around there. I think they can get up to 160 if I'm not mistaken. Some of my friends have been over and seen jaguars. I haven't been there yet. But then in India, you've got leopards in India too, and you've got snow leopards, and you've got clouded leopards. So many different species of leopards. But within Africa, these leopards adapt very well to whichever terrain they are found in, and we do get them all over the continent. Marie, you want to know why the leopards don't interact with their offspring like lions do. So, Marie, one of the main reasons is because leopards are solitary. That is the niche that they fulfill within nature. And the niche is the role, basically is the role that these animals play within nature. So the leopards are solitary animals. They move around by themselves, they hunt for themselves, and that is what makes leopards successful. They are not pride animals like the lions that are in large groups or in prides. They're not pack animals like wild dogs. So one of the reasons is purely that. The females will raise the cubs up to about 1.5 years on average. Generally, generally that's how long cubs will stay with the adult females. It may be even sooner than that before they get pushed off, maybe a year, but usually it's a year and a half. The males have absolutely nothing to do with raising of the cubs. All they are there for is there to mate with the females and then basically move on and possibly mate with another female, but they do not have anything to do with raising the cubs. However, because females that mate with the males are usually within their territory, the males may come across those cubs at times, but then they'll recognize the female by the scent. They know they've mated with them and probably recognize the cubs as their own, also based on scent, and they tolerate them, but they won't necessarily interact with them for very long. I have seen male leopards interact with their offspring, though. It does happen, but it might be for perhaps a day or two, and then they move on again. They don't stay together because they are solitary animals. So I think that's probably the main reason. All right, everyone. We have spent such a wonderful afternoon with Tingana. It's been fantastic to see him, from finding him earlier at the waterhole to seeing him drinking and now resting. I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave him now, give him his space, let him move around during the course of the evening. He may rest here for quite some time still. So we're going to move around and see what else we can find. And while we do that, let's head back to James and the lions and see what they're up to.